sorry, I had the mute on. Sawmill operation over the army people serving the Vietnam has increased tremendously in 1965 as a result. The facility could order the construction of the depots, hangars, etc. As a major problem if the job to relieve this and the similar problems become with the army carpentry for the will build the facilities needed. Then take with much for the hard work to provide the building when the lumber is available. If the job in the army to become late for the like of the Vietnam, there'll probably be the times lumber is not available. If you run into the situation, you'll be able to twice the difficulty you will have to gods and get in the jungle and cut the lumber before you be able to do the job. You must know how to reckon and to operate a sawmill. The chapter discovered the erecting of the sawmill, building logs, size, skidways, operating sawmills, and carrying the large cutting laws. They also cutting saw. They also discussed the important rule for the sawmill operation. Erecting the sawmill, most of the sawmill work of the army will be properly performed. The portable saw, one of the many different types of the portable saw, is shown in the figure 49. The use of the portable saw that is erected inside the once for the day, and very suddenly remains the one step of the setup over. It is preferable to move the sawmill away from the material accumulated rather than to move the lumber and slab to the opposite outside piece of the wood and without the bark, or to take off the logs from the saw into the boards. Install this. One large step of the setups of the sawmill is simply move the head of the progressive over the skidways away from the accumulated wood material. After you set up the sawmill 2 or 3 times, you should be able to set it up in the short length of time. 9.2. To erect the main frame of the sawmill, place it within a few feet of the location where the operate within, and prepare the exact location to move the mill a few feet in the place of the sawmill is mounted. The pneumatic tires dig in the shallow trench in front of each wheel to level the ground. This is done when the sawmill is leveled, and some of the weight will remove the tires. If not done, the sawmill will not sit rigidly enough. Pull the sawmill ahead of the pit with the trenches. Be sure that the saw disc conveyor does not rust when grounded with the saw with the bolt into the trench and hit the truck of the power within viewing the saw wheel and play for the relative position. The sawmill then will let it align with the drive belt from the power unit with the sawmill. 9.3. Leveling. The sawmill must be leveled properly. If not leveled, the saw will run in or out of the front. The saw that runs in the front will make the last piece of the lumber the cut of the dog board thin at the top. The saw that runs out for the front will make the dog board thick at the top. In other words, the lumber will not be square at the level of the sawmill. May be sure of the material such as a plank of a timber plate on the ground with underneath each of the length of the leg of it to prevent the settling into the soil of the operation. Proceed level the sawmill properly. You must consult with the operator's manual for the particular make and model that you are using. Bracing. After you have leveled the sawmill, correctly brace and secure with the compensate with the dry belt tension. Most portable saws are braced and secure with the brace against the side wall frame or against the frame of the sawmill to the ground with the power unit. In addition with the tray bracing with the sawmill, you must also go with the sawdust conveyor chain with the anchor in it. Most sawmills have the chain anchor with the body dribbling iron pipe with a strong pole within the ground tray for the sawmill. Properly to anchor the sawdust conveyor chain, you must also consult with the operator's manual for the particular make and model that you are using. 10. Building log skidways. Before you erect the sawmill, you should line up the saw site before you're starting the saw lumber. This is done to determine the exact. Alright, figure 49 shows a portable sawmill. Location of the logs is certain with the accessibility of the truck and check with the skidway. With the skidway is a platform made with the skidways log with which are plowed with the loading. If possible, skidways should be made with a gentle slope where there is enough space to pile the lumber and slab. The sawdust skidways are shown in figure 50. Skidways are installed on a gentle slope so the lumber slabs are carried downward and the procedure to decrease the labor involved with the tremendous and also advantage to have the logs piled with on one-way rollway. Because the most portable sawmills carriages are not equipped to take the logs from 2 rollways. Logs are usually received on the carriage with the wheel end of the toward to the saw. Sometimes the tractor of the finger lift that can be used with the great advantage of the portable saw. It can be used to load even turn large logs at the skidway, load over the lumbers of the truck. If the large commercial operation where the timber stands that are thick, the logs are large, and portable saw mills can be used in pairs. The tractor with the finger lift can be kept busy with the sideways skidways and the slabs piles of loading lumber of the trucks. This is good for the methods used when shorting personnel because this is need for the quite a few men can be eliminated by this method. 11. Operating the sawmill. Know that you have erected the sawmill. You have to build the logs. Good way that you are ready to operate the saw. Operate the mill. Before you attempt to operate the sawmill, you should acquaint yourself with the operator's and sawyer's position, the stands for the carriage, and familiarization you will give the feel with the moving carriage will allow that you make the few movements as much natural. 11.12. You must acquaint yourself with the relative dimension for the sawmill carriage to give it the special attention to the length of the distance between the head of the blocks around the log with the raise it, because the information will help you to position the carriage to properly receive the log. that approaching on the skid with the position of the log of the carriage then cannot be overemphasized. No set rule can be given because all logs are different. You should always try to work with the center of the log and the center of the carriage. You will feed the saw from the operator's position of the carriage. The carriage must forward and backward past the saw on the forward movement of the log directed to the saw will cut the board with the side of the log. 11.3 as the log is being brought up in the readiness to place on the carriage, you must consider the presence for the spinning, not the other obstruction that could be prevent the log from lying firmly on the carriage. The obstruction in the passage of the carriage being brought forward. Alright, 11.4. You must also consider any bend for the log tendency of the new operator in place for the bow of the belly of the log up down. In fact, many old sawyers want to bow up and slightly out. It has been found that careful check of the quality of the lumber produced that to be definitely wrong. The correct position of the bow of the log is horizontal plane toward the operative side of the carriage of the log, resting on all the head blocks over which it extends. 11.5. The in position of the log can easily be brought out with the other end of the use of the wedge prior out with a cant of the log hook so that the line cut will be equal to each end. 1 to 11.6. The log should be received on the carriage with the butt ends, large ends toward the saw, especially long log, because they have heavy butt overhanging and will have tendency to tip the carriage up. The also saw is not as apt to running out that is full of the grain of the wood. 11.7. After the log is received with the carriage, it must be dogged. Dogging is the term given in the act of securing the log with the carriage, becoming the dogs into the log is very important because of the improperly dogged logs may result in an accident, usually result in the damage to the saw, which means the use of the time and the manpower. The following hand tools are considered essential to operating with a portable sawmill: axe, shovel, oil can, cant, hook, spirit level, 8.5-inch round saw L, 8-inch adjusting jaw wrench. Alright, this shows the skidway from the saw. 10-inch adjustable jaw wrench. Additional tools are powered for the power unit. 12. Caring for the saw. Your job is not to complete with the finishing of the saw with the lumber that you must take care of the saw. It's impossible to place enough of the emphasis for the taking care of the saw. The true can truthfully be said that it is the most important part of any type of the machine with the conversion logs into lumber. Whether it's stationary or portable sawmill, if it does not take care of the saw, it can slash your production rate and the accuracy of the dimension if the lumber had leaving the depth of the despair. 12.2. There's nothing in the sawmill that takes much of the use of the saw. For instance, should be a long come the loose for the dog legs, while the tremendous strain is on the saw that very likely kink in the bend, bringing it halt of the operation, resulting in lost time of the manpower. All saws very considerable, require different methods of handling this part of the due to the hardness of the mill and the softness of the steel in which they are made. The teeth. The teeth of the new saw should always run well with a few hours. Maybe the rafter through rough cut with the always run a few hours. The saw the tension, but maybe with the proper speed with the natural leave the proper set with this facts assure you that if the teeth can be kept properly sharpened like new, the saw will continue to run and cut in the true line. Therefore, we'll find that it does not do this. The deviation usually indicates that the saw teeth have sharpened properly. It has been proven that improper sharpening of the saw that is too long will lose the proper tension that may cause blisters to develop in the saw blade. This happens when you will have to have a competent saw expert retention of the saw by the hammering it. The hammering saw is an art and should be under no circumstance attempted by anyone with a limited experience. But when you shall saw cease to cut the properly, stop your operation and sharpen it. Alright, your blade. Most of your sawing will be done with the chisel tool. So let's find out how chisel tool saws work. Many saws use to cut wood lengthwise with the grain and such wedge set chisel tool set tool saws. Many saws are used to cut crosswise the grains and spring set with the pointed teeth and saw. The spring set is cut off saws cuts over the side free with the tears of the portion between the two edges are cut free in the sharp point. Therefore, there are points that become dull and do not cut the edge of the free with a further sharp, showing the difficulty. Saw is said to be dull with the sharpening points with the correct of the situation. You can resume your work in so much as the center is torn out and in a light, then creep the curve and cut or stroke will increase the amount of the turn out and will increase the power accordingly. A rip shape saw the saw cuts across the center of the tears out of the two corners of the region with the width of the cut with the core and stroke does not materially affect the power required. The two edges have the torn free regardless for how narrow the cut stroke is. This is what consumes the power of the notice. The chisel tool shown in figure 51. Their corners of truth does the tearing. Their tearing also be less than the tearing effect of the corners will affect the power consumption with immediately corresponding with the increase of the power used through each of the tooth. This is going to cause much trouble. Therefore, the condition of the corners of the teeth of a great importance. 12.6. In addition, each one of the corner of the tooth becomes duller than the other. The one causing the greater resistance will have a tendency to force the saw opposite with the way which will cause the side of the saw to rub up against on the side of the log. If the saw rubs on the side of the log, it will be done with one of two things. If the log is moving the end of the weight slowly with the saw rotation of the ribs and slowing moving log, it will generate the heat of the saw, which will cause the metal to expand. This in turn will cover the saw with the loose stiffness required to run straight. The further condition that will allow it to develop, the more difficult it becomes the remedy. To the other hand, when the log is passing the saw with a higher rate of speed, the saw will have the tendency to cool as it rubs against the log because the inside of the figure 51 shows the chisel tooth of the if the log is cool, this will cause the metal to shrink and stiffen. 12.7. Another factor will affect the operation saw with the improper angle at the front of the tooth. This will cause the saw to run in or out. Remember, the cutting edge of the saw should be straight across. The speed, usually the speed of this portable saw mill greatest for the mention, both in and out of the cut. Usually, mistakenly, operators use to try to operate the saw with the two greatest speed of regular uniform speed, both in and out cuts, to ensure the more lumber and more accurate lumber. The speed should be governed by the available horsepower of the course and must be increased as the power driving the saw increase. 13. Basic rules of sawmill operation. There are many of the basic rules on the important sawmill operation. The rules apply with the greasing of the saw, handling the saw, checking the carriage greasing while the greasing of the saw wheel does as follows. Apply with the heavy over the gear of the sawdust conveyor twice daily. Use the soft light pressure gun grease. Use the only pressure gun grease in the grease gun. Lubricate the knee slides of the gear rack slides of the other moving parts frequently with the light machine oil. Some sawmills may make practice lubricating surface of the knees of the which log rest when they're taking on the large log because of the help of the turning of the log. Some operators of the powered graphite on the head block of the slides of the inside of oil. Alright, remove all the bearings and which the carriage slides with washing them out with a solvent and repack them when the pressure gun once a year. 13.3. So, including in the handles, always observe the following rules. Do not ever saw with the hot saw. Never saw with the dull teeth, and do not allow chips to rub the saw, and keep the saw clean with of the pitch. Note the pitch strikes only on a hot saw. 13.4. Carriage. When checking the carriage, proceed as follows. Be sure that the carriage is level. Always check the carriage before you start with the sawing of the running up and down the track 2 or 3 times to determine whether the ropes are in order, if the saw is clear. Always check the dogs whether you are not sawing, especially on the return after the last board is cut from the log. Keep the dogs away from the saw. Always keep the saw guides adjusted properly. Always lock the carriage with the day works. Whenever the machine is not in operation, always put the carriage bolt and lock pin with the set of the handbrake, which are going to move the mill. Alright, corresponds Army Engineering School, the answers, and then the discussion, and then more, this is solutions, discussions, questions, and that completes the last tape of the Carpentry 3 and Subcourse AN 0053 Edition 7, Army Institute of Professional Development.